Hi YouTube community and burgeoning fans of tarot. I am making a video today. First off, it's my first video, so give me a little bit of a break here for the dicey quality and any lame editing that happens. The reason I wanted to make a video is because there's a lot of information on the tarot out there, and a lot even within our own little YouTube community here, but there's not a lot for people that are beginning to begin, like looking on where to purchase tarot and what kind of books to track down and stuff like that, if you're the kind of person that needs to read a book before you get into anything. So I just wanted to lay out a few places to locate this kind of stuff, and some good tips on how to get it cheaply and easily for people that obviously are on a lower income but want to get into this. So whether you believe in the more spiritual side of tarot, or whether you're using it as more of a means for self-reflection and introspection, the fact remains that you still need to find the right deck. Okay, so a lot of people are still going to go with the tried and true classic, which is referred to as the Rider-Waite or Rider-Waite deck. I think I might have made up the part about Smith. I don't know. I'm trying to remember the name of the artist. The Rider-Waite deck is very popular to this day, probably because of how rich it is in symbolism and its imagery. This is a deck that has probably a lot of different variations that you could get almost anywhere. There's a lot of different places that print it. I actually purchased mine when I was like 11. I live in a really small town, and there is a weird sort of novelty shop for people that do historical reenactments within the town, like from the 1700s and 1800s. A lot of people have their Rider-Waite deck from a printing company called US Games, and my gripe with that is that on the cards they would have their brand name US Games like written all along here, and it's kind of unsightly. Another thing I really like about my deck is it's a little bit smaller. It shuffles in the hand well, and it has a really beautiful back. It's like a really pretty sepia sort of mosaic. One thing that some people wouldn't like is it actually comes with descriptions of the card on the bottom in small text, which isn't necessarily ugly, but its definitions and descriptions seem a little bit off at times, according to a lot of books that I've been reading, even the book written by Arthur Waite himself. And another thing about it is some people want to be able to learn on their own, and they don't want these suggestions at the bottom clouding their judgment. So it's still very much a deck I would recommend, and you can get it literally anywhere. You could go to a Barnes & Noble. Any bookstore is probably going to have it. If you have any sort of New Age or occult store, I guarantee you they'll have it. And I'm sure Amazon, eBay, and just 1,000 other retailers online are going to have it I've seen it for roughly $16. There's a version called the Universal Weight that has a little bit richer colors. It's touched up a little bit more. The drawings are a little bit better, but overall it's still the same drawings for all of the cards. One thing that people suggest for your tarot deck is that you find your own thing to keep it in. A lot of people will keep it in like a cloth or a little bag, or even a special box that they make or pick out for themselves, anything that stands out to them. So for mine, I made a little drawstring bag, and it's got my name embroidered in it. My other deck that I got more recently is by The Wild Unknown, and I got this for Christmas, and I absolutely love it, but it's just a world of difference from the Rider-Waite deck or any sort of traditional deck like that. This one is the box here. is mostly black and white with just pops of color, and it can be found online at a couple different places, from the Wild Unknowns website, and also I've seen a lot of people bought it from Bona Drag. But if you buy it from the Wild Unknown, I've got a coupon code I'm going to put in the bottom for 20% off. It is $40 for the deck, but the shipping seemed really reasonably fast, and they are of beautiful quality, and you're paying for someone's original artwork. Everything is mostly just black ink line work, and it's all animals. There are no humans in it, and there's not really a lot of scenes so much as they are just almost portraits of the animals. So for wands, instead of a page of wands here, I have daughter of wands. And so all of the wands are represented by snakes. And then we've got owls for swords, and so on and so forth. I really like the deck a lot so far, but it does cause me to have to think about what I'm doing a lot more than with my Rider-Waite deck, where I can just read the description at the bottom, think about what the picture might mean, and then consult my books a little bit, and then I feel like I have a really clear idea. With this deck, there are a few cards in there that, to be perfectly honest, I think were kind of phoned in. Like, I just look at it and I get nothing. And I'm a little bit of an artist myself, so I feel like I can kind of tell when some of them are too simple, and where the artist wasn't too inspired by maybe this particular card. Otherwise, it's a beautiful deck, and it's something I want to show off. I love the art style, so that vibes really well with me. A lot of my friends think it's really cool, and it's taught me, you know, to have a different outlook with the tarot than I did before. So it's helping me learn in a different way, because I am making stronger emotional connections with the cards that I do like, and it's easier for me to remember what they do mean and what they mean to me personally. Okay, what I really wanted to spend time with in this video was more about book reviews and recommendations, because I'm the kind of person that wants to just tear into a book and always have it handy so I can keep looking back, consulting it, and drawing inspiration from it, as much as I do love the videos on here. It's nice to have something with you everywhere you go. You don't need to be on the internet to look at a book. The first one I want to talk about is probably my favorite so far. The story behind this is, over the summer, I had been getting more into New Age stuff, spirituality, stuff like that, and I do a lot of thrift shopping. I go to Goodwill and Savers, and we have a giant antique mall nearby that doesn't just sell antiques, but also just cool used items that people throw in there. And oddly enough, the first area I looked at had a really cool incense burner right off the bat, and about 1 foot to the left was this book for $2.50. It is by Janina, Renee, and it's called Tarot for a New Generation. It's published by Llewellyn, which is really popular with like New Age, occult, spirituality, all of that. Here's the cover of it. I believe it does have a newer cover now. This is probably an older edition, but this is a huge book, specific to, you know, obviously the new generation, younger people, especially young women, and the kind of things that they could be going through. So, for instance, the other cool thing is, in addition to all of her information about the cards, it's also got a huge introduction about the history of tarot, which is maybe not the best researched. It comes off a little dicey at times, but it's still a good primer. And all kind of information on layouts for the cards, just a million different types of ways to read them. And then she's even got some example readings for before you really feel like you're ready to get started. For every single card that she shows you, she has the images from 3 different decks that she uses. One is the Universal Waite, and then there's one that's like the Witch's Tarot, I want to say, and another one that is, I don't know the name of it off the top of my head, but it's like Native American Tarot. So, we have a page on the Hermit, and these are the 3 different cards she's showing you. You're going to have a paragraph, a rather large paragraph, talking about what the imagery usually is throughout any deck, any traditional style deck, and all kinds of topics that it might bring up. So this is the Hermit. We've got a paragraph on character, loners, mentoring, orientation to the past, quest for knowledge, seclusion, time element, and travel. These are all paragraphs per each topic that the card can bring up. And I'm not saying that if you pull the Hermit card, it's gotta relate to one of those things, but there's a good chance that it could for you, and it's a great jumping off point, especially for someone new. And I think it would, if you can find this book for $2.50, I don't care if you're 72 years old, I think you're still going to get enough great information for it. It's not exactly talking about passing notes to your boyfriend in high school and I don't know what flavor bubblegum to buy at the carryout. I don't know. Whatever young people think about. It's still got a lot of great information. And this one's probably been my favorite so far because it is just absolutely versatile in every way. The next book I want to talk about is one that I found, you could say used, but it seems like it was absolutely untouched. It is The Pictorial Key to the Tarot by Arthur Edward Waite. This is the guy I told you about who commissioned this deck. And I got this one at a used bookstore for $3.50 maybe, but like I said, it's in absolutely brand new condition. Like, it had never even been opened. The binding was so stiff. This one's a lot more simple, and I think obviously written a long time ago, so it might even at time have some language that's a little bit elusive. But if you're going to start out with the Rider-Waite deck, why not get this book? Because it's still got breakdowns of your deck, with a picture of every card in black and white, so it's the exact card that you have, and then one paragraph about the meaning, written by the man who, decided what these cards were going to represent. So he should know better than anyone else. I would still suggest this book because I'm sure you could find it anywhere very cheap, but for as much writing it has in it, it's still a pretty bland book, and you might find it a little bit hard to understand even. So I'm not sure how much information you're going to really feel like you got out of it. But I still say give it a go. The next book I got jumps back again to the antique mall. This is one I had my eye on, but it was $6 whole, so I wasn't sure if I wanted to buy it. This book is from the I think the 70s. It seemed older at the time to me. It's a hardback. Tarot, Cards for Fun, and Fortunetelling. And this one is actually published by US Games, who still print a lot of different decks. The interesting thing about this book, for one, it looks really cool on the inside. The example that it uses in here is an even older deck. It is the French deck Tarot de Marseille, and it predates the Rider-Waite deck. And like I was saying earlier, the lesser arcana are very basic pictures. Not a lot going on in there. But this is the same. This book is the same format as Pictorial Key to Tarot, where it's just got maybe one page, picture of the card, meaning of it. This book is cool from a collector's standpoint, but it doesn't really have a lot in the way of information, and I also do not have a Tarot de Marseille deck, so it is not always pertinent to the cards I'm pulling when I'm doing a reading. A lot of, especially the major arcana, The meanings are still a little bit similar. There will be some overlap with that in the Rider-Waite deck or anything based off of a Rider-Waite, but it's still a lot different, so this one I just have for fun. The last book is a really cool one that I would suggest almost as much as Tarot for a New Generation, the first book I talked about. This one is almost completely different, and it's the most fun to read. It's written really well. It's written by a Wiccan lady, Michele Morgan, and it's called A Magical Course in Tarot. I found this book, it's a hardcover, mine's in great condition. I found it all over the internet used for 99 cents, all over the place. A lot of places will charge you $3.50 for shipping, but that's still very cheap for this book. And this one takes a completely different approach. It is for intuitive reading, so really it's a book that tells you throw out the books, as counterintuitive as that sounds. But this is more for people that want to, like I explained earlier, look at their card in a reading and just go off of what feeling they get. So it's helping you sort of, especially if you're interested in developing psychic powers or anything like that, if you believe in that, this would be a great book for helping you sort of tap into that and just go off of vibes. And that's not exactly my favorite way to read tarot, because it's a lot to wrap my head around, because I'm the kind of person that, like, no, I need a clear, defined definition. But it's still been a lot of fun to read, and it still does have a lot of information on what these cards could mean, and it's really broad. It could be for any deck of any style of tarot almost, her definitions. She has pages where she lays out, you know, here's just a couple words of inspiration per each card. So for the Chariot, we have movement, triumph, travel. And she does that for everything. She has a few words to describe each of the 4 suits of the Lesser Arcana, and then she gets into what numbers mean, what colors mean, what certain animals mean, and certain other different symbols that you might find in any given deck. And she just gives a few words. She doesn't tell it all. It's not long-winded at all, very much unlike my video right now. Just a few words to go off of, and the whole book is really just a jumping off point for you. So it doesn't baby you. It helps you, you know, figure out what the cards mean by yourself. But there are still, it does have a second section where each page is every card from an entire deck, and then a very, very broad overview of what that card can mean, because a lot of decks will have slight differences, even if they all follow the Rider-Waite style. And they all have these beautiful illustrations, and the cool thing about them is that none of them are really taken straight from what you would find in any given deck. They're all very vague, and like I said, they're supposed to be stark, not unlike the My Wild Unknown tarot deck, where they just trigger emotional responses and trigger just sort of like visceral memories and archetypes and just themes that everyone sort of has within them in the back of their head that can relate to almost anyone, where you see something and almost anyone sort of sees the same thing from it. So that's a really cool thing about that. And there are a few layouts, but she's very like freewheeling hippie about it. She says, just go with it. Just see what cards fall out of the deck. Who cares what placement they're in? You don't even need to ask it a question. Just look at some cards and see what that means to you. Which, like I said, is a little bit of a struggle for me, but it's still a, you know, fun struggle. And it's a different change of pace, so sometimes I like to consult her book a little bit more when I'm doing tarot. Sometimes I don't want anything to do with it. But I very much would recommend this book. If you're going to get any 2 books on tarot, get this one, and then maybe get one that is you know, written a lot more plainly. Just here are the cards, here are what they mean, always. So you have two different perspectives to look at, and that's going to challenge you and help you sort of figure out what style works best for you. So, as to where you're going to purchase these books, I have seen a lot of them at, if you want to go the brand new route, you know, okay, for one, you can try the library first, but this is the kind of thing where I'd rather own the book. And, but if you want to purchase it, and maybe for any reason you are not able to purchase things online, you don't have a credit or debit card, or you're a little bit younger, and even if you live in a pretty small town, you might have a bigger chain retailer like Barnes & Noble or Borders. Is that still a thing? I don't know. But they have actually at Barnes & Noble, mine, a very large New Age spirituality section, and they have a ton of different decks of tarot, and a lot of them are going to come with a little tiny book that will explain the deck, and you've got pretty obscure ones to your basic Rider-Waite, excuse me. And in addition to that, there's all kinds of books on tarot, but you're going to pay a ridiculous price for these books. I would say go with this if this is your only option. I have found a lot of tarot books at thrift stores so far. 3 out of my 4 are from thrift stores, and I've even found some other ones that I didn't purchase. I saw one for a couple dollars that was like all about how to read reverse tarot. So it was a pretty obscure book to be at a thrift store. So give it a chance. You can spend $1 or $2, get a ton of information. Even if it's a book that isn't considered the end-all be-all of tarot books, you could still find something pretty great that's going to help you out if you have really nothing to go on at first. So check your thrift stores, but then probably your best bet is the internet, like anything else lately. So I'm a huge fan of Amazon, and there's a lot of people that sell used books on Amazon for insanely cheap, like 99 cents a book. I have purchased some books, not any of these tarot books, but I've purchased other books on there for 99 cents a piece, and the shipping was around $3 per book, and then the shipping got cheaper for each book you bought from that same seller. And I've seen this trend with a lot of used booksellers. So if you can even just go to Amazon and look for any Goodwill or anything like that, or you can go to their page and then type in search terms for the kind of books you want, because I always feel like it's better to buy a few books, so I don't feel as bad about spending so much on shipping for one book that costs 99 cents. Maybe get a few books to make that shipping price worth it. And I look through these sellers periodically, and they have a lot of stuff on tarot. And another place, the place where I purchased a magical course in tarot from, I used a website called halfpricebooks.com. They actually have physical locations, like stores, but nowhere near me, but basically just full of all sorts of books. A lot of them are brand new, and they're at least half price, sometimes way cheaper. And they're basically like a place where you can look and find all kinds of different sellers from them, a lot like Amazon. I found a seller called Yankee Clipper Books for like all of their books were 99 cents. They had great reviews. I was looking for this specific book, The Magical Course on Tarot, and I went through a few different sellers they had there that had it cheap enough, and I found Yankee Clipper, and I started looking around and what they had, and just they actually ended up having a lot on New Age and spirituality, and I was looking up books on Wicca at the time. So I ended up getting 4 books from them, and they were all 99 cents a piece, and they all came in great condition. Some of them were a little bit older and even a little bit harder to find at any given place, maybe out of print. The only downside about all of these used booksellers I found online so far is it will take almost up to a month to get to you. And they will send you an email like the very first day you order and say, hey, it shipped. Here's your shipping code for tracking. And I'll track it, and it'll be like, no such thing. I hope this was a little bit helpful for you guys. I'm going to have links at the bottom for where I purchased all this stuff, or at least as many links as I can remember and find. If you guys have any other questions on this kind of stuff, and maybe on the tarot in general, or any other shopping questions, because it's kind of my life, go ahead and message me on here and I'll see if I can answer your questions or make some sort of review. Thanks. Bye.